dear, it's out of alignment. Greetings and salutations, artisans. This is Wolfphototech, and here we are with the next video of the Wizards of the Coast starter sets. This is the Essentials Kit for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, or how I would personally prefer to call it, Basic Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition. Because this is closer to Basic Dungeons & Dragons than Advanced. So this is what we get in this box set. This is actually, I think this is the second starter set that they released. Starter set. It's the Essentials Kit. This is basically starter set 2.0. You have a 6 character. Everything in this is upgraded compared to the previous one. You got a 64-page rule booklet that teaches you how to create characters. There's of level 1 to 6 and to play the game. The book adventure for Dragon of Icespire Peak, a double-sided poster map, Dungeon Master screen, 6 blank character sheets, 11 Polyhedral Dice, 81 cards describing magic items, sidekicks, and more. And then has a little ad for continuing your adventure on D&D Beyond. There's actually sequel adventures on D&D Beyond. Like, I think another 3 adventures that are like every 2 levels after 6th level. I think it like ends out at like 10th or 12th. It's like roughly 2 levels for each adventure, or maybe 3. And that's my other option. Yet again, just like the first starter set, it's actually pretty bare simple on the outside. You got it standing on. It's 2 to 6 players. You got an extra. You got 1 more character sheet in this box. Yet again, very basic top. Then you got this little card holder, which I actually use for dice. You got 11 polyhedral dice. Now, unlike the previous one, which see that list one, this one actually gives you enough dice to roll up a character. You got. By the way, you got 1 D4, you got 4 D6s. By the way, they're all clear dice, so they should actually roll pretty effectively. However, I have terrible luck in that regard, and I always roll terribly with these dice. Nice solid color, D8. You got a D10 and a D10s dice, which goes in increments of 10. Between those 2 dice, you can roll your percentage checks. Play Call of Cthulhu if you want. You got a D12, and you got 2 D20s. So you can roll advantage or disadvantage with this set. You get a nice little box that's actually folded out flat, which you assemble, which I use for the dice. For this adventure, they have a really, really simple, bland, and booklet. Instead of being staple bound, it's actually glue bound. This book is 64 pages, which is the size of each individual book for the Spelljammer 5th edition's box set or slipcase that's coming out, the 3 books. So if you happen to have this set, this is basically what you get in the slipcase, but this is going to be, you add a little extra thickness to this for hardcovers. This book actually is an upgrade to the previous book. It has a little more depth in description than the previous starter set. However, it is generally the same thing. Explains races in more depth, which is the added extra section, and it actually gives you enough information to actually build characters as opposed to the other starter set, which is up here now, which does not. It just gives you characters to play. So this is an upgrade to the previous one. It gives you enough information for character classes from level 1 to 6. The races that are included in this book are dwarf, elf, halfling, human. Yeah, that's it. Dwarf, elf, halfling, and human. No gnomes. Gnomes are awesome. I love gnomes. I really do love my gnomes. Yes, indeed. And then you have information for bards, clerics, fighter. The artwork is actually really simplified in this book. Just a rogue. You have your standard starting rules and instructions how to build your rogue. They only give you one archetype for each class, though. So in the case, well, actually they give you two. They give you, what do they give you here? I haven't actually gone through this in too much depth, but in for bards you get College of Lore and College of Valor for 1 to level 6. Remember that applies to all of them. Level 1 to 6. For clerics you get Life Domain and War Domain, which are actually two really good ones. For fighter, you get, I believe it will be Champion, Eldritch Knight, and Champion. And rogues, you get Thief and Arcane Trickster. And then you have Wizard, which you get Evocation and Transmutation as your class subclasses. You have backgrounds in this book. And then you got instructions on how to play the game. You have ability checks, explaining ability checks, strength checks, the environment, travel, the different combat, different actions with combat and healing, and then you have a section on equipment. Important note on this is that unlike that starter set up there, instead of having them divide the adventuring section from the combat section and the equipment section, it kind of just all runs together. So you have ability checks here. One of the few cases in which there's actually a color image in this book. And then very quickly, it goes through ability checks. And it jumps into environment, combat, which it explains through here, damage types and critical hits, and how to roll your dice. And then it jumps into equipment, which is its own chapter. So they condensed some chapters, some sections from the previous starter set together into individual chapters. They give you slightly more options for equipment in this book as well, with more descriptions and more magic items. And then they give you a little section on spellcasting, which is actually more from the core rule book, but without the diagrams showing where you are in relationship to the cones, the cylinders, the cubes, etc., or radiating damage and stuff like that. Then you have a nice little section on spells, some nice artwork, and so forth. Now, this is this book right. Oh, and then there's a sidekick section in the back of the book, which is this is the basic sidekick section. One level for the sidekicks. You got a spellcaster, a warrior, and an expert. And then there's the little charts, there's like 2nd level to 6th level for sidekicks, plus a little index on the back for conditions. This is somewhat of an improvement, but also a condensing and an expedited version of the previous book as well. So you get more information, but it's also more crammed together. You got the adventure for Dragon of Icespire Peak. I have not read through this one or run anyone through it. It's still the same area as the previous adventure. Lost Mines of Phandalin or Phandelver. You got a little bit more extra stuff in here. Then it has a little section on the back about ending the adventure. Creatures that you'll run into, as well as how to run them, with some decent artwork included. Characters that you might run into, which is largely the same thing as the previous DM's book, as well as a key on the back for maps. You got a thin sheet Dungeon Master screen with the basic information on the back. This is actually a pretty decent beginner Dungeon Master screen. There actually is a diagram here from the player's handbook showing with the stars that denote where the character is in relationship, or how the spell projects from the point of cast, or where it lands. Like in the case of Fireball, it's actually kind of like a sphere or a cone. You got Fireball, which you have a point of origin in the center, and then there's a circle around it. It has conditions on here. You have DC setting section, and you got your little travel pack over here with your sizes for your enemies. Then you have a map, a hex map for the Solar Coast, which is handy dandy, with a key here, and a little denotation up here exactly how big is each hex. And then you have the map for town of Phandelver. And then in the back of this box, you happen to have character sheets. And by the way, all these character sheets are not pre-made. You got just straight up character sheets, just the standard character sheet. Standard boxes. And then there should be also a spellcaster sheet in here as well. Or a few of them. No? So they don't give you a spellcaster sheet. So you just got the first sheet of your 2-sheet set for your characters. You have the sheet with unlock keys on the back side of it for D&D Beyond. You got initiative cards. You got condition cards with condition information on the back side. You got character cards, characters you may meet in your adventure through Phandelver and the surrounding area. You got quest cards, which are, just fun little things to use just to keep track of your quests in Phandelver. You got magic item cards with information of your magic items on the back side. No artwork are on these cards for the magic items, or most anything else other than the character cards. And then just a bland box in the bland bottom in the box. Okay, Just put everything back. I did. Oh yeah, there's the artwork for the front of the Dungeon Master screen, which is more akin to Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 edition as far as artwork is concerned. Gonna throw the dice back into the box because that's how I'm storing them for now. The box is originally intended for cards, however I don't use it for the cards. Alright. Okay, on to the score section. This happens to be the 5-star of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition starter sets. If you want to buy a starter set that you can actually make characters with, that has a lot more depth and material, this is the set to start with. You actually get a complete set of dice, not a bare minimum number of set of dice. See my previous video for my praise and rants about the original starter set. This is actually, as of the making of this video, the best starter set. This is the 5-star of starter sets for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. On scale with other starter sets, though, it's probably mid-tier to upper bottom tier of starter sets for other game systems. Because other game systems, just even with thinner boxes, still kick the living schnozzles out of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. You get very little overall, and it's less well built compared to other gaming systems starter sets. So I'm not joking. But this is literally the top of the pile starter sets. If this is typically sells like $10 more than the original starter set, or $15 depending on where you go. But this is the better one. This is the better starter set as of making this video. So if you really wanted to, like, you're on a shoestring budget, you get the original starter set. But if you have a few more dollars and don't mind in spending the extra money, this is the starter set. This is the best one outright. This is the 5-star of D&D 5th edition starter sets. Because it gives you actual character creation rules, it gives you 2 subclasses, it gives you the core race, the common core races, not all of them for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but the core classic ones, minus gnome. I'm saddened that they don't give you a gnome in this one. But you know, they had to save 2 pages and that they didn't want to break the entire game for gnomes, for the starters. Gnomes are just awesome. Mr. Pennington can agree to that. But, anyways, this is the best starter set so far for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Alrighty? Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, I'm going to put it back up on my Nintendo 64 games. Pin it in with Mario Party 2. Please leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. I will cover more and more stuff and expand out over time and go into more depth in things. I'm just doing the basic reviews up front and just get through the basic reviews. And if you dislike my videos, please leave a dislike and tell me why in the comments below. And still consider subscribing. And thank you very much for watching. Have a delightful day, a nice night, a wonderful week, and a magnificent month. And see you next time.